You may have heard of a website called YarnPond.com where designers can go to find pattern testers and tech editors. Well, here are some recent stats from their website. There are 1,638 registered designers at this point in time and 263 registered tech editors. That means there are potentially 6 designers for each tech editor. And when you bear in mind that designers tend to create more than one pattern, that is a huge market and it's just on one site. Hello everyone, I'm Carol and I'm the founder of Cool Wool School and I work as a knitting and crochet technical editor. I support designers behind the scenes, helping turn their ideas into clear, accurate, professional patterns, and I get paid to do it. It's a little known fact that this is actually where a lot of the work and the income exists in the yarn industry. So today's session is therefore called What Does a Technical Editor Really Do and Why They're in Demand? So we're going to look at what tech editors do and what they don't do. So first of all, what do? Well, a tech editor checks patterns for accuracy throughout, including all stitch counts and measurements listed within the pattern. So there is some number crunching to do. But that isn't the whole story. A tech editor will also check that the layout and the formatting used for the instructions are consistent and as required by the designer. This can be done by looking at previous patterns from that designer or by using what is known in the industry as a style guide. A tech editor will ensure instructions make sense and are clearly written. Now, this will depend on who the target audience is and what their level of experience may be. So that's something you would discuss with the designer when you first start working on the pattern. A tech editor will review the structure and the flow of the pattern to make sure that it reads well and makes sense. So generally, a tech editor supports designers professionally, helping out with any difficulties they may have in getting their pattern to be the best it can be. So what they don't do. This is a really important point. Tech editors don't redesign the pattern. They check what's there and report back. You may prefer an instruction to be written differently, but it isn't your pattern. As long as it works, then there's no need to change it, as long as it is in the designer's style. Tech editors certainly do not take over the creative process. If changes are required that will affect design decisions in any way, the tech editor will ask the designer to look at these. Any issues should be discussed with the designer with helpful suggestions, but ultimately it is their decision as to whether they want to make changes. Tech editors shouldn't spend a lot of time trying to work out a solution to a problem. There could be various ways an issue could be resolved. If it isn't an obvious solution, then the tech editor should report back and ask the designer to have another look, bearing your comments in mind. Tech editors do not knit or crochet the item. That is the job of a pattern tester. Tech editors use their experience to check the pattern without making it. Now, occasionally I will make a very small sample of a particular stitch pattern to make sure it looks as it should, but that is all. My framework for teaching tech editing is based around what I call the 5 C's. First of all, calculations. Are the numbers correct? This is a very important part of the process, but there is more to it than meets the eye, and I'm going to expand on this with some real examples shortly. The second C is consistency. Is the pattern written in a uniform way, both across the pattern itself, but also across other patterns for this designer? Because as a tech editor, you tend to work on many patterns for one client. Completeness. Is everything in the pattern that is needed? Examples of things which may be missing are maybe some materials, abbreviations, special stitches, and quite often a fair bit of the making up instructions can be missing. Clarity. Does it make sense? Now, this will depend on the intended audience. For example, a beginner pattern will include more explanation than a pattern intended for advanced makers. So that's something you would discuss quite early on. And the last point is conciseness. Now, again, this will depend on the client. For an individual designer, this may not be relevant. They can make their pattern as wordy and as long as they want. It is their pattern after all. But for yarn companies, magazines and book publishers, space can be tight, and formatting the pattern to their usual style will be critical. So now let's look at the fun part, some real examples. The first one is a knitting example, and we're going to look at calculations first. So let's have a look at this example here. It says cast on 24 stitches, and in row 1, which is a right side row, you work a knit 2, then in brackets we have purl 2, knit 2 to the end. So the purl 2, knit 2 is repeated until we reach the end of the row. What that means is we are working 4 stitches in each repeat, 2 purl and 2 knit. So for this number of stitches to work, we need a multiple of 4 plus the original knit 2 stitches. So we need a multiple of 4 plus 2. So is 24 a multiple of 4 plus 2? Well, no, it isn't. The closest would be either 22 or 26. So what will the tech editor do? Well, what they can do is look further down in the pattern for some clues, because the rest of the pattern might help them determine what the original cast on stitches should be. So this doesn't work. So the next example is a crochet example, and it is written using UK terminology. As a tech editor for crochet, you need to be bilingual. You need to be able to understand both UK and US terminology. It's straightforward. It's the beginning of a row-based pattern. It says make 20 chain, and then row 1, which is a right side row, says 1 DC in the second chain from the hook, and you are told that the missed chain does not count as a stitch, which is a very useful bit of information. And then it says 1 DC in each remaining chain, and you should have 20 stitches. Is that correct? Well, we miss 1 chain at the beginning. We work into the second chain. We are working UK DC, which in the US would be SC. So skipping 1 chain is quite normal. And then we have 19 chains left, so we should have 19 stitches at the end of row 1, not 20. So no, this isn't correct either. Let's look at another example, another knitting one. We have 20 stitches at this point in the pattern, and then row 3 is worked. And row 3 says knit 1, M1, which stands for make 1, which is basically an increase that you make into the bar between 2 stitches. And then we've got in brackets knit 3, purl 3 to the last stitch. So that's a repeat going on there. And when we reach the last stitch, we do another make 1 before we work the last stitch, and then we knit 1. And we're told we should end up with 22 stitches. Now, at first glance, row 3 may look okay in terms of the stitch counts. We have added 2 stitches using make 1, and we've ended up with 22. But there is more to it than that. We need to check that row 3 will actually work with our 20 stitches available. So how do we do that? Well, we know we are using up one of those stitches at the beginning with our first knit 1, and one at the end with our last knit 1. Remember, the make 1s are not present when you start working this row. So you've got 20 stitches available. You use one with the first knit 1 and one with the second knit 1. So we've got 18 left to work our repeat in. Now each repeat uses 6 stitches because we're going to knit 3 and purl 3. So if we've got 18 stitches, if we divide by those 6, that tells us that we have 3 repeats. And when you do that divide, if it's a whole number, then that means that stitch count is actually going to work. So we have a knit 1, we have knit 3, purl 3 3 times, and the last knit 1, and that all adds up to 20 stitches. So you have to do your checks that the number of stitches are actually going to work with the row as it's written. And then finally you add on your 2 make 1s to give you a final stitch count of 22. So indeed, this example is correct. Now let's look at another crochet one. So at this point in the pattern, we have 42 stitches before we work round 8. And round 8 says, inside brackets, this is a US pattern, by the way, SC in the next 6 stitches, and then ink in the next stitch. That's quite a common term used in crochet. It basically means that you're going to work 2 SC, single crochet, into 1 stitch. And then it says repeat around, and you're told that you end up with 48 stitches. how are we going to check that this works? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to ask ourselves how many stitches are we using in each of these repeats. So we're working into 6 stitches here, so that's 6, and we're working into 1 stitch here, so that's 7 being used in each repeat. 42 divided by 7 gives us 6, which is a whole number, which means that the stitches are going to fit 6 times. There'll be no stitches left over with the maker not knowing what to do with them. So we've got 6 repeats. And ink means that we are working 2 stitches into 1. So every time we work an ink, we are adding 1 stitch. So we have 6 repeats of this, so we're adding 6 stitches. 42 plus 6 gives us our 48. So indeed, this example is also correct. Now we're going to look at another part to do with numbers involved as a tech editor, and that is measurements. How do we check that measurements are correct? This is particularly important in garment patterns. So let's look at just one size of a sweater here. We're told that the finished chest size for this one size we're looking at is 105 centimeters. And it's also given in inches, which is 41.5 inches. By the way, as a tech editor, you would have to check that that conversion is correct. This particular sweater is being worked in sections. So we have a front, we have a back, and we have sleeves and all the other bits and pieces. So if the finished chest size of the garment is 105, so if you divide the 105 by 2, that will give us what the front is and what the back is. They're both the same. So 105 divided by 2 is 52.5. So how are we going to check that that's correct? Well, there's 2 bits of information that we need to be able to do that. We need to know what the tension is that's being used in this pattern, not on the ball band, being used in this pattern. So our tension in this pattern was 22 stitches and 30 rows to 10 centimeters. And we also need to know how many stitches are there across the front or the back so that we can work out how wide it is. So in the pattern, that is 116 stitches. So how do we work it out? Well, we know that 22 stitches is 10 centimeters from the tension. So that means that 1 stitch would be 10 divided by 22, which gives us 0.45 centimeters. So if we've got 116 stitches, we can multiply 116 by that 0.45 and we get 52.2, and that would round to 52.5 because most patterns round to the nearest half a centimetre. So that is indeed correct. I think we've done enough of the numbers for now. What I'm going to look at next is consistency examples. Consistency is key. You may have what's called a style sheet to work to, containing example formats for each type of instruction for your client, or you may have an existing pattern to check against. Here's a section of a pattern, and it's a knitting pattern. Now, what I would do as a tech editor, if I had an example of a pattern by this designer, then I'll go and have a look at that, or I would look at the style sheet and see if this is consistently laid out. Now, if you just browse through, you might notice that most of the rows start with a capital letter after the colon. Nearly all of them do. However, the first one doesn't. And I would highlight that as a tech editor as an inconsistency. It should start with a capital K1 there. And I know that from looking at previous patterns. Similarly, if you look at the last row in the pattern, SSK, because it is the first thing after the colon, even though it's inside a bracket, it should still start with a capital S. So there's an example of consistency errors. Now let's look at an example for crochet. So we've got something being worked in the round here, and if you glance through, I'm not doing all the maths, you might spot a few things that look a bit odd. The first thing is there. We've got a comma and a full stop, and all of the others have just a full stop, so that is obviously an error there. There is another thing. If you look a little bit further on, you might spot the stitch count for round 6 is 30 stitches, but there is no space between the 30 and the stitches. All the other rounds have a space before the word stitches, and that is part of your consistency checks. Now I'm going to leave the other 3 C's for now. These are all covered in my tech editing workshop and in my courses in much more detail. Now, the next question is, are tech editors in demand? Well, there are a growing number of designers out in the world these days. The digital world makes it so much easier for designers to create and sell patterns, and there's a need for quality patterns. Designers want return customers, and they won't get that if their patterns have issues. And individual designers are not your only potential clients. There are also magazines and book publishers which always use tech editors. Yarn companies often develop their own patterns and as such will also use the services of tech editors. An interesting point about demand for tech editors: on my last live full tech editing course, one student got her first paying tech editing job while still taking the course, and another got theirs within 1 week of finishing the course. Now, the demand is there. You just have to know where to look. And this is covered on my full tech editing course. Not only do I teach you the ins and outs of tech editing itself, but I also show you how to get clients and where to look for them. So what I've done for you folks is I have created a couple of freebies for you. What I've created are 2 mini tech editing exercises, which you can have a go at. One for knitting and one for crochet. The links are below the video, and how it works is you sign up and you get your first pattern sent to you, whichever one you sign up for, and of course you can do both. And then you can have a chance at looking at what you think the issues are, and then the next day you will get sent a copy of the pattern with the issues that I picked up. So that's quite an interesting thing to have a go at. I really hope you've enjoyed this session, and I look forward to meeting you in one of my introductory workshops or on my full tech editing course. Bye for now.